Hello, Brad here, just to say we're super proud that the Friday 5pm podcast is sponsored by the Malt Miller, the UK's best home brew store.
We use the Malt Miller for all of our homebrew experiments, as well as tapping them up for advice and binging on their awesome YouTube channel all the time.
That's why whenever we release a homebrew video, we put a recipe kit live on the Malt Miller, so you can brew with the exact same amazing ingredients that we did. The same ingredients used by pro brewers.
So alongside the Malt Miller's nitro-flushed hops, cold-stored yeast and milled-to-order malts, you can pick up recipe kits for our 5 Points Best Bitter, Russian River West Coast IPA, and now the fastest beer in the world, a hazy session IPA that goes from grain to glass in less than 48 hours.
Sign up to their newsletter at tinyurl.com/Malt Miller to get 5% off your first order. With the Malt Miller's amazing customer service and Johnny's 48-hour recipe, you could order the ingredients on a Monday and be drinking the beer by the weekend.
Speaking of which, it's Friday.
It's 5pm.
So enjoy this week's Friday 5pm podcast.
Hey beer fans, welcome back to another episode of Friday 5pm with your man Brad here and your other man Johnny over there. Living down the phone line once again on a Friday.
What an intro.
Oh,
the other man.
The other guy.
I love
the
it.
main guy. the head honcho. The guy that brings the power to the table. Yeah. Beer, Johnny? Beer podcast.
Yeah, what a thing. Nailing this. How are you, Bradley? How's your week in beer been? Can I live vicariously through you, given that I'm not drinking?
No, because I haven't really been drinking either.
In solidarity? Thanks, man.
Well, I'd like to say in solidarity, mainly because I've just been working and stuff, and I just didn't really find the time to drink, which is probably a bad thing, isn't it? Yeah, but you're not drinking alcohol. You're in a sort of Groundhog Day. 2020 hasn't ended for you, has it, Johnny? You're just in a never-ending monotony of low to no alcohol beers.
Do you know what? Initially, I was really enjoying it. I was caught up in the novelty of all these low alcohol beers and trying them and looking into the science of how they're made. I interviewed an expert about the effects of alcohol on our bodies and had a terrifying time hearing what it was doing to me, and I was enjoying all of that. Well, maybe less so the terrifying bits. But now the novelty is well and truly worn off, and I'm desperate for a proper beer. Like a couple of these low alcohols have hit the spot, but somehow, even though like the actual ritual is the same, it doesn't have the same effect. There's something intangible, which is probably just the intoxication, but it still feels different. Like if you know there's no alcohol in there, that's almost more powerful than the fact that there is no alcohol in there. You kind of feel like it's not going to have the same effect, and I'm struggling to get rid of that bias.
Do you think you would feel happier drinking it in the sweet ignorance of not knowing if it had alcohol in it? Obviously, you can taste the alcohol in it if it's got alcohol in it, but if they actually made a no-alcohol beer that tasted like it had alcohol in it, would that be okay with you?
I mean, there's definitely beers that I've tasted that taste like they have alcohol in, where it would be a little bit tricky to tell it apart from an alcoholic beverage. I guess, yeah, if I was handed a beer and told it was alcoholic, that would be more joyful than if I knew it wasn't.
Yeah, it's like a placebo effect type thing. Almost like...
100%.
If you were in a bar or you were just with your mates... And almost like a group thing where, like, in animals, like a lot of animals do this, where if you yawn at them, they'll yawn at you back. Or they might slow blink at you because these are all sort of social signals that we give out. We don't even know it. That are just letting the people that you're with know that you're not a threat to them and that you're at ease. And it's a psychological thing.
Yeah, I mean, nobody can see somebody yawn and not yawn back.
Exactly, right.
You'd have to be a sociopath to be able to do that.
Is it akin to eating a sugar-covered donut and not licking your lips, which is impossible.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. It's right up there with the donut test.
Oh, the donut test.
I'm pretty sure there have been studies done into where they did trick people. They were given low alcohol or alcohol-free beer, but told there was alcohol in there.
Yeah, man.
And they've acted as if they were getting inebriated because part of the effect of alcohol.
I've heard of that for sure. And there's totally, like, people. The power of the mind is so powerful. I was talking to a friend about this the other day, and we were just saying that we do generally believe that having a positive attitude, if you're not well, if you've got a serious illness or whatever, positive attitude, positive thinking can have a real effect on your health. And I think clinically it's been proven. So I think
well, that's why they do the placebo test,
yeah,
don't they? They don't just give a drug to somebody and not give a drug to somebody. Yeah. They also give placebos to see if there's a positive psychological effect that's being had because you're taking the drug. Yeah.
So the ritual and everything that you're just being a bit crushed by life at the minute because there's no alcohol in your beer, mate. So
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm being crushed by life.
Come on, Johnny.
That might be overselling the drama that I'm going through.
Yeah. You did get a parking ticket the other day, so that always.
It was an outrageous parking ticket. Yeah. And I will pay it begrudgingly. That's the kind of rebel I am. I mean, I've honestly, genuinely enjoyed the first 2 weeks. It's just now, and particularly as things get a little bit more stressful, a little bit more busy, that low alcohol beer just isn't quite cutting the mustard. And I'm literally counting down the days on Twitter. In fact, most days I'm posting how many days it is because I just somehow need people to know the struggle.
Yes.
It's weird because I'm not a guy that needs attention, but apparently sober me really, really does. Which is kind of the wrong way round. Usually it's the people who are drunk that are demanding your attention. But there we go. So yeah, I'm doing well. I mean, all of this struggle will make hopefully for a great video when I finally get onto the beer again. I've also literally in my fridge I've laid out what I'm going to be drinking on the first day that I can.
I'm just picturing you right now, like Robert De Niro in Cape Fear as Max Caddy, who's like this psycho guy that's in jail, that's been put there for he shouldn't have gone to jail or whatever, or he thinks that he shouldn't have gone to jail, and he blames the lawyer that got him put in there. And he's just training every day. He's counting down the hours till he's allowed to get out of jail so he can go and murder this guy. And you are Max Caddy, a very intense young De Niro that's you're going to murder some beers, mate, when you get to the end of this month. What do you reckon?
They don't stand a chance. Their days are numbered. And also the next bit of footage that's shot in my kitchen, you'll see me where I've scratched the number of days that I've been doing it into the wall.
Can you please do a montage of that with you doing push-ups and just like maybe drawing like numbers on the wall, push-ups, and then the really amazing theme tune from Cape Fear. Yeah, man, that'd be awesome. Do that in the video. Yeah.
Let's do it. I'll buy the rights because we make enough from doing this. Right, let's get back on topic. This week's video was... I put a tweet about this, actually, because I was delighted that we could put a video out about a very niche, very under-hopped, very historic beer style, and it was still super popular. Views were up 60% on our average.
Wowza.
So I don't know whether it's like Allagash wit, whether it's people going, actually, what the hell is wit? Or whether it's people there to hear your terrible pun at the start.
It's exactly that, mate. People are there to hear what's wit got to do with it. That's solely why they checked into it. They were like, not sure about this. Then they heard that gold from Brad, and they were like, I'm staying.
Right.
And then I say nothing else of use for the whole video, but we do go into the history and kind of all the amazing, weird sort of things. Why it's such a unique style that's not really represented a lot in craft beer bars, certainly in the UK, anyway.
Yeah, although a lot of the comments were from people in parts of the world where wit is pretty popular.
Yeah.
So that's, like the Russian guy who messaged us to say that he wished there was more New England IPA in Russia. There is regional differences in beer tastes and the success of different brands, which is heartening.
Really heartening. To me, it's kind of mind blowing as well, because I would have thought that craft beer scene at this point would have generally homogenized around the world, and we all would have been sort of on the same playbook, going down the hazy trail and all the rest of it. But it's great to know that there are these, like we talked about, I think it was last week, about, no, maybe a couple of weeks ago, like you said, the Russian guy that was enjoying IPA and wishing he'd get more of it. Like, that's mind blowing. Just to sort of get a different beer perspective like that. Someone that's passionate about beer, but there's just their whole sort of country and scene is at a different stage. Kind of amazing, but yeah, cool stuff.
So the other cool thing that came out of that video that sort of went through the history of wit. Well, before I get into the other cool thing in the comments, I should say that lots of people did pick up the fact that we didn't mention Hoegaarden, really. And, Hoegaarden was created by a guy called Pierre Celis. And apparently when he first created it, it was a beautiful beer, and it brought wit beer, back from the dead almost. There were no wit beers being produced, particularly in the village of Hoegaarden, which is where it sort of was famously made. But he sold it to a large macro concern, and I think the beer, against his will, got, probably quite literally watered down, and the ingredients weren't the quality that he wanted and stuff. So he actually founded a new brand, which I think is called Celis, which is apparently great. But I haven't tasted either Celis or the original Hoegaarden. I've only tasted the modern Hoegaarden, which kind of sucks. And on the Craft Beer channel, we try to make a point to only really talk about stuff we've actually tried, to avoid feeding into hype and stuff like that. So we didn't really talk about it. We should have referenced it. So that was a bit of a mistake on our part. But that's why we didn't go into it. But something we did talk about, and clearly didn't know a lot about, is Curacao orange peel, Brad.
Oh, dude, yeah. So, I mean, do you want to read your comment about the sort of orange stuff, or do you want me to?
Yeah, well, I mean, there were lots of comments, weren't there, about... So we sort of mentioned how it was slightly strange that dried orange peel and coriander made it into these beers, but that coriander in particular can be grown in southern Europe. We got people saying that actually it can be grown almost anywhere. It's not, an exotic plant. It can grow almost anywhere. But in particular, we've got lots of people explaining why the oranges might have been there. Because oranges, Spain is what's famous for oranges. And we got lots of people such as Birdie Matats who said not only was the Netherlands one of the great trading ports at the time, they were also ruled by the Spanish. Therefore, Spanish-grown products would have been the norm, as the ruling majority would have wanted their home comforts. So yeah, clearly, the Netherlands and Belgium and northern France would have had access to these ingredients because of the power of Spain and the attraction of Netherlands as a trading port.
And on that sort of, trading kind of tip, and, colonies and all that kind of stuff, another interesting thing is that, Curacao, which is the type of oranges that are in Allagash White, come from the island of Curacao, which it was a colony of the Netherlands, which is obviously next door to Belgium. And I don't know for sure, but potentially the borders may have been a little bit different to modern times. So it's
well, lots of people speak Dutch in Belgium.
Yeah, it's kind of
that lowland area is a wild mix of cultures.
Yeah, so it's cool to think that all that time back in history they had these trade routes going on where you could be bringing in oranges or products of oranges from Curacao halfway around the world, and bringing them to a beer which was consumed by local folk. It must have been mind blowing to try that sort of flavours in a beer.
And it does kind of ruin the idea of these farmhouse wits, because that's definitely how it started. Like, you were using gruit. This, before hops were using spices and peels and all kinds of different stuff to flavour it, and that would have been stuff that you had on the farm available. So that farmhouse ideal that we find very romantic in brewing today would have died pretty early as soon as the oranges came along, and everyone was like, well, that tastes much better.
Yes, mate.
Going to stop adding rosemary.
What was I thinking about? I was thinking about the Dutch, right? And their strange liqueurs that they have. So they They have curacao, or blue curacao, which is orange flavored liqueur, it uses bitter oranges from curacao. But then I was thinking they also do advocaat, which I did a bit of googling, and advocaat, which I quite enjoy of a Christmas time, consumed with equal parts advocaat and lemonade to make a snowball, which basically tastes a bit like a sort of lemon meringue pie, very much in a similar way to Allagash White. So there's something there in that kind of lowlander flavour palette, that in their beer and in their liqueurs and stuff, they love that kind of thick, velvety, eggy, lemony, citrusy notes, which I think is very interesting.
Well, I do think, though, that the wit beers being made back then wouldn't have tasted anything like Allagash wit, because they'd have had their own natural yeast. It would have been sour and funky as well.
Yeah. But maybe it would have had that yogurt.
But nowadays,
for sure.
Yeah. So thank you everybody that commented on that and taught us a little bit of history, and how beer is very much influenced by the trade routes that were around from sort of the 13th, 14th century. As those trade routes started to open up, it really influenced the beer flavours that were happening and ended up with several of the styles that we have today, such as wit, which I think is one of the most underrated styles and most delicious sort of pintable styles outside of Pilsner and Helles.
Definitely, mate. On that tip, we had my comment was from Roy Fex, who said, "Such an underrated style. Glad you chaps are giving it some love. I remember Daya did a vanilla wit a few years back, and since then I've brewed a wit a few times at home with a small addition of vanilla. One of my favourite homebrews. It helps boost the creaminess that you refer to in this video, but remember to keep it subtle to prevent it from becoming a pastry wit." Mate, isn't that an idea? A pastry wit?
It's a terrible idea. Like wit, like I just said, is like something you want to crush in a pint.
Yeah.
I don't want to pastryfy it. I want it.
I guess you don't want it too heavy.
Yeah, like lots of the sweetness in wit is perceived. It's actually quite dry, and that's what I really, really like about the beer.
It's dry and crushable, even though it's got that lemony kind of freshness to it. I, on the other hand, I love wit beer, but I would like a pastry wit. I'd like to see someone make that. And I'd like for it to taste like a snowball, like a really hyped up version of Allagash, but it's extra sort of maybe it has lactose in it, so it's got a kind of milky creaminess quality to it to give that cream soda-y kind of mouthfeel and sweetness. It could be disgusting. It probably would be disgusting, but I'm interested.
Hey, well, as we ramp up our homebrewing content, maybe at some point we'll get to the vanilla wit. I'll agree to it if you promise not to make more puns that don't make any sense.
I can deal with it, Johnny.
See, that's a good one. I'd happily have that in the video. I'm down with that. Anyway. While we're on the topic of the lowlands, there's a bit of sad news to come out of Belgium, in that Achel, which is a great Trappist brewery, has lost its Trappist designation, because the last of the brewers who were overseeing the brewing process have now retired from that role.
Damn.
I don't think you can retire from being a monk.
He died in a sort of
in a brewing accident.
Yeah, like a pool of acid or something. I thought it would be more dramatic, Johnny. He's just retired.
No, sorry. They happily retired, I'm afraid.
Well, you would have thought like Achel would be able to sort of get another monk involved, right?
Well, there's a big crisis in the monking industry, because very few young people are choosing the life of monking.
The monk life?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, if you are of that religious persuasion and you're not quite sure what to do with your life, if you could go to brew school and then become a monk, that would be really helpful for us to keep the Trappist traditions alive.
Or maybe you're an out-of-work brewer and you just want to make really great beer, and you're quite good at lying. Maybe go and
I feel
apply.
like God would see through that and he'd spoil your batches.
Is there a God, Johnny? Who can say? Who can say?
Well, if you want to be a monk, you'll have to say.
Well, you can say it, but if you don't believe it, then that's all good. I think they should apply for a monk. That'd be fun. We could do like a sort of find me a monk type TV format where it's like have you seen the TV show? I think it's called Find Me a Wife, and it's all about farmers that live in very rural places that don't have any ladies around them, or they're incredibly shy and sort of live a hermetic lifestyle, basically because they just hang about with their flock of sheep or whatever. So we should do a Find Me a Monk,
or we could crowdfund for a monk.
I like it. What?
That's the more trendy way to do it. I can't believe.
Could we call it a crunk?
Trappist breweries aren't crowdfunding.
Could we call it a crunk? Yeah.
I think that's a different thing, Brad. I'm not going to say what I think it is.
Crunking is different. Crunking's not rude. It's just a dance style. It's not a particularly rude dance style, right? Am I?
Oh no, I was thinking of when you're crying and you're drunk.
Oh, right.
I think that's crunking because you're sad and you're drunk.
I mean, crunk is a type of hip-hop music characterised by repeatedly shouty catchphrases and elements typical of electronic dance music, such as prominent bass. And it's an adjective for very excited or full of energy, Johnny. So
well, we need to add to the dictionary that crunking is also crowdfunding for another monk.
And crying while drunk.
To join a Trappist. And crying while drunk, of course.
Little John.
I bet that's on Urban Dictionary.
Little John is a main protagonist of Crunk. He's very famous for going, "Oh yeah," but like in a less sort of girly way than I just said it. I didn't want to shout out because my girlfriend's on a conference call, so I didn't want to do a manly, "Oh yeah." I can't remember how he says it even.
I feel like that's not very in the spirit of crunking, where you say it quietly because someone's on a conference call.
It's not very Crunk attitude, is it, Johnny?
No, it's not.
Damn it.
It's not. Anyway, as always, another bizarre diversion. I think that's all we've got for today's podcast. Is that? Oh no, we've got to advertise our live show, Bradley.
Oh, you nearly bloody forgot the main point of it.
I nearly forgot.
Damn.
Yeah, the whole reason we podcast to actually push people to our YouTube channel, and I forgot to do it. So we're super excited to say that on the 6th of February. That's a Saturday at 8 p.m. We are going live again on our YouTube channel with another lockdown special with one of our favourite breweries in the world, Pressure Drop.
Yes, mate. This is a big one.
This is big and exciting. We've got an amazing list. We've got Pilsners, Pales, IPAs. We were going to have a Hefeweiss, but unfortunately they've had to delay packaging. It wasn't quite conditioned. But we've still got a sour and an Imperial Stout as well. So relatively diverse, absolutely stunning beer. Pressure Drop are, quietly one of the best breweries in the UK. And we'll be joined by Sienna and Claire from the brewery. They're both amazing people. And it should be very silly and a lot of fun. And you can buy that case from Pressure Drop's website. We take a little cut. That's part of how we fund our channel. And obviously, lots of money goes to them. If you top up your order, so the box I think is £36. For 8 beers. If you top that order up to over £80, which I know is a lot, but if you do, then they will give a certain amount of funds in credit to an independent bottle shop to help independent bottle shops around the country. So you can get drunk for a good cause as well with Pressure Drop.
That's
nice. So I'll put a link to that box in the show notes and a link to the video, which is a week tomorrow. If you're listening to this on the day that we released it, and we will have an amazing time that night, so don't miss out. Anything to add, Brad, or shall we wrap it up at a relatively restrained 24 minutes?
Well, not to blow you out of the water there, Johnny, but we are putting out a Patreon video today, aren't we, mate?
Yes, that's already out. So we should also say, yes, there has never been a better time to join our Patreon and get access to our awesome Patreon forum on Discord. And you can join that from $1 and higher and join all the lovely beer geeks that are already there chatting about homebrewing and food and doing bottle shares and chatting about mental health as well. It's a very safe space. It's a lovely place to be.
Yeah, man, it's phenomenal, and becoming a Patreon basically keeps the lights on at Craft Beer Channel, and it's how we function. It's how we keep making content throughout a global pandemic.
So yeah, please do join our Patreon, and otherwise have an amazing weekend, and we'll see you on Wednesday for another exciting upload from the Craft Beer Channel. The Bubble Podcast is brought to you by the nerds behind YouTube's Craft Beer Channel. Head to youtube.com/the Craft Beer Channel to watch this week's video and over 400 more exciting episodes. If you love what we do, please do subscribe and even join our Patreon at patreon.com/craftbeerchannel. Love and beer.